Good morning. I am getting ready to do something that I have been dreading. This was my daily driver right up until we moved to the mountains. And once we got up here, my commute was just a little bit too long to be putting a lot of miles every day on a 20-year-old Jeep. So I decided it was time to send it on to somebody else who's actually going to be able to drive it. I just don't get to use it. As you all know, I spend all my time building this house and trying to build this farm up. So we've arranged a sale for it this morning. It is going to its new owner. One of the nice things is that they live close to me, so I'll get to see it drive by every once in a while, probably with a deer on the back of it, but at least I'll get to see it again. It's time to make the transfer and get to the work. Good morning. We are back on the build this morning. In fact, we've been up here the last 2 days. However, just about everything we did the last 2 days was prep work. We've been getting panels ready so we can do some installs. It's kind of disheartening because when you're feeling a lot of progress and then you start doing a lot of little busy work and you don't get any progress made on putting stuff up on the roof, it feels kind of like you're hitting a dead stop. Now, I know we're not. Logically, I know that we're not. I've had a few problems and I basically created them for myself. When I was building the trusses, I made some cuts. And I talked about this previously when I was putting it together. Say hello to that little spider right there. He's doing his work, keeping the bugs out. I talked about this earlier when I was making some of these, putting some of these trusses together. This one right here is probably the one that's got the best cut of the whole bunch. Now, I would measure and calculate what the angle needed to be, and I even had a template that matched what the calculation was, and we would measure and make the cut, and every time where these two pieces came together, it was wrong, and I had to recut. Well, what that does is that shortens that, and it brings it down a little bit, and it changes the angle. And it put me off just a little bit. You can see I've got a little bit of a gap there. Now it's touching along the top of the wall. I've got a little bit of a gap there that I'm gonna fill with a shim, and I've bought some extra long screws that are gonna go through there and fasten everything together. Structurally, it's not a problem. Aesthetically, you see it. I don't like it, but that's just the way it is. When we were putting these walls together, when we first got started, I developed a slight lean right about there. So much so that I was about 1.5 inches out of plumb. When I realized it, I had to fix it right away so that by the time I got over to this side, it would match up. I did that. We got that taken care of, but in this one spot, it created a gap, and that gap meant, climb through the window here, that gap meant that the roof didn't touch because this panel right here was sticking up a little bit over that one. Also, when I went to the end, went to the corner, and I looked across the top of the rafters, I could see that it wasn't going to quite line up. So yesterday I was up here with an oscillating saw, nibbing the top of the wall out to change the level of it and bring it down. Just what I had to do to make it work, and we're going to find out whether or not I did exactly what I needed to do or I was off when we put this next panel up, because this is the panel that goes right here. So I'm going to jump on it real quick, get that spline cut out. That's a 2x12 spline. Get that 2x12 spline cut so we can foam it, stick it in there, and nail it in place. So what you just saw me doing was recessing the foam. As I mentioned previous video, Sips Company forgot to recess the foam on the front edge all along the top and on basically everything in the front where it took the spline on the front. They did not recess it. And And it looks like this one piece right here, they did not recess the end. And I guess I'll have to check when I get to that other one that goes on the bottom over here, see if they've recessed that one. But you know, that ate up maybe 30 minutes, 20-30 minutes. It is what it is. I'm trying to shoot the foam out on it. What we're going to do is we're going to lift, we're going to place this side on the inside, we're going to lift it up, jam it up in, and then push it in. Have to be because it's already got glue on it. Seal it up, fill it with slip seal. Alright. Skill saw. Okay. Shoot it straight down.
Skill saw.
The one we were just using.
Okay. That up here.
Yep.
Okay. Forward.
That one.
There's lots that do that.
Well, I measured it, but apparently I got a little overage there, so I got to trim that back. And I've got a little gap here in the middle. And this gap, I'm sure, is due to the end of this board. That was the factory cut. It's a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna have to seal that. And I'm gonna put slip seal all in that and make sure nothing gets in there. No water. You got the foam gun?
gun, I have a nailer, I have extra nails, and I have a hammer. What more could you want?
Be careful.
The prep work on this job never really seems to end. Every time you think you're done, you find out that there's something else you have to do before you can move to the next major step. As we were getting ready to put the panel up, we realized that we had not put the spline at the top of this wall section. This was the first wall section that we put up, and it had been covered with black plastic ever since.
Had some questions come up about the sealant that we put in here to seal the panels when we put them together. What we're using is it's a product called Sip Seal. It's a sealant. It's very flexible. I apply it in the channel first. I basically stick it to the upper skin, and then I slide the spline in it, trying to create as tight of a seal between this spline and this OSB skin as possible. Now, it's not going to be airtight because there's a gap at the end between all of them, but we're going to go over top of it with butyl tape when we're done, and every seam gets taped. And then from inside the house, I'm going to drill up and inject that same foam that we use to foam the boards in here and fill this void and this void to seal these together. After I put the Sip Seal in here, stick this in, you're going to see me only put one nail on each end. But once we get it up on the roof, I'm going to nail both panels through the spline every 6 inches to stitch it together. I don't put Sip Seal on the bottom, and that's just as I thought about it, it didn't make sense to me to seal it like that there, because I'm also going to have butyl tape on the bottom inside the house, and I'm going to have that foam injected inside of it.
It's this piece right here. Yeah, it was the another.
Okay.
That's the extra.
As soon as I lifted it, Javana saw that I had a piece that I still had to trim off. And when I got over there and took a look at it, I realized that I also had to put some Sip Seal on the edge so the splines would fit together on the other side. Before we lifted the panel up, I had mounting plates that I had attached to the trusses higher up so that I could set the height that the panel would sit, and be more precise in where I had it situated before I started pinning it to the frame and to the trusses. This looks like it happened rather quickly, but in actuality we had been on the roof for well over an hour at this point, because there were a lot of gyrations we had to make to get it to line up to the next panel and bring them together. Almost immediately when I got up on the roof, I realized that there was a problem. The panels don't line up. I have to bring the level of the panel a little deeper into the structure. And the only way to do that is to get the planer and take about 1/4 of an inch off the top of the rafters. There are a lot of little tasks we run into like this where we've got a challenge we have to overcome. It's the only way to get to the next step. I just look at it as it isn't over until I win. It's a beautiful place to struggle, I gotta tell you that. After getting the rafters planed down a little bit, we got the panel in, got it fastened, but we were out of daylight. This is the end for today and for this weekend. If you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. Come on back and check us out again at Breakhard Orchard. Go ahead and hit that like button as well. We'll see y'all next time.
Sit that right there. Ooh, that's a little hot. Don't want to sit that right there. Okay. I need a rock or something to put this puppy on. I'm not a little guy.
What, are you just confirming this?
Just trying to squeeze through that hole. Good morning. We are back on the woo. I'm gonna kill myself up here.